Good evening, B's, G's, MB's, Peens, Vajeans, and in between. I come to you as always as Charles, otherwise known as CPO. Welcome to WILIscredia. This is a patron-requested topical discussion. I really wasn't planning on touching on this subject at all. I'm sure if you go back in time enough, you'll hear some sort of combination of everything I'm saying here. But there's some really brain-dead takes out there. The comparisons are adorable, rich, to say the very least. Even Cody, his clickbait, hyperbolic title, is movie criticism dead? It's not dead. I'm sure he doesn't think film criticism's dead, but it's getting traffic, so he knows what he's doing. He's a full-timer for a reason, and I'm not. So, yeah. So apparently all of this is in reaction to Chris Stuckman deciding that he's not going to do anything other than celebrate film because he's now been on the other side of filmmaking. And apparently it has something to do with big studio projects, so on and so forth. As far as he is concerned, I would be surprised if he maintains that stance, because his YouTube channel, he got to where he is covering movies, good, bad, indifferent. Some people would sell their souls in exchange for fame. And I can't tell you how many people, doing casting calls where people would tell me that a script that I wrote was the funniest thing they read that day. And it's just like, yeah, I'm not paying you. I don't know why you're buttering me up, but I appreciate it. But save all that for somebody who actually can cut a check. I'm just the guy who wrote the thing, and I'm here in the casting call. You don't have to butter me up. And there's tons of that. Of the videos I've seen, people glazing Chris Stuckman, trying to have their cake and eat it too, where it's just like, I don't know. I've burned many a bridge being what I feel is honest. As far as Chris Stuckman being the glue for film criticism is concerned, I don't think that's the case. He's quite a figure in online film reviewers, yes. Another personal experience of mine with Chris Stuckman himself. As far as I know, he has no experience with stand-up comedy, but when I did my roast video congratulating him, he was a really good sport about it. And he didn't need to have an understanding of comedy or stand-up or the roast style to understand that I was paying homage while joking. Granted, I look back and there's some jokes that I probably would not do in hindsight. He decided to author a book about film before going to film school. It makes for a great punchline. And now here he is making an independent film and taking this stance.
I do not know how hard it is to make a movie under the studio system. I was able to make an indie film without a giant corporation breathing down my neck.
Anything I've done as far as filmmaking is concerned, I've tapped out and quit because it's extremely difficult. I can attest to that. But on the same scale, when you're creating art, you need to know if somebody's not feeling something. How are people supposed to improve? How are studios supposed to improve if they think that their only criticisms of the project are either good or silent? It just doesn't help. You need to know what works and what doesn't so that you can do better the next time.
Wow, you guys, if it misses with you guys, huh? Nope, keep going, next.
I don't know of very many people who create art, whether it be music, film, images, comedy, so on and so forth, where they're not honest with themselves. And to have critics explain why they weren't feeling something or why they don't completely agree with something, it helps. Sure, is it tough? Is it crappy to deal with in the beginning? Absolutely. But, after you sit with it and you understand that these are film fans first, you kind of take the constructive criticism and you weigh it. All right, how much does this person's opinion mean? Do I feel like what they're saying is warranted? There are tons of people that have opinions about things that there's a weighted scale that I would say when people talk about my humor and how they weren't feeling it. It depends on how I feel about your sense of humor. If these people are making money from their art. They're not supposed to be there for praise and fame. They're already professional. They're already being compensated for their work. If ever there were an industry where constructive criticism helps the future project, it's art, film, music, so on and so forth. I would be genuinely surprised if Stuckman continues with the no bad reviews stance, but he's trying to make his way into an industry that you want to be positive with people. I'm not accusing him of anything. Filmmakers need to understand that anybody who's covering film online is a film fan first. I mean, you're taking time out of your schedule to discuss a movie. People know Chris Stuckman because of his broad range of taste and his commentary on good films, bad films, in between films. I don't think this will last. And if it does, I would assume that he won't be taken seriously as far as film criticism is concerned. And that's the other thing. I referenced the joke that I never got to use. Cody talked about this, about how film criticism is different now. And I agree with the principle. I don't agree with the sentence completely. I do feel like the parasocial relationships have kind of taken over what you would consider normal film criticism. Film criticism used to be people with credentials, people who had an education in film, people who understand cinematography, sound, so on and so forth, blocking, all this other stuff. And that's kind of been taken over by content creators who review movies. I feel like those are two separate categories. I feel like a film critic and a movie reviewer are two different things. I feel like movie reviewers aren't completely educated on all of the technicalities of filmmaking, but they're just talking about the story. Joe Sixpack doesn't really notice certain aspects of the technical side of things, whereas a film critic with film credentials who has studied film and the art of technique, they can get into things a bit more than just the story and tone and, you know, what visual storytelling and what elements influence emotion. That is something that I think critics still manage to cover quite well. I would say maybe 4 out of 10 film fans genuinely know all of the technical aspects that would be covered by a film critic. The other 6 certainly get enough from their trusty online movie reviewer. And that's kind of what's happened now. Society constantly changes. I feel like movie reviewers, while they're considered critics, they've saturated and watered down the definition of a quote unquote film critic. A Rotten Tomatoes approved critic isn't exactly what I would call a critic. Granted, it's a diverse lot of people who specialize in different things. And I don't know if that's what film criticism is, somebody who specializes in a particular brand of film. It's possible, it's probable, but as far as what we were trained to recognize and criticize in film, it's gotten a little wide. The standards are lower, for lack of a better term. It's different now. It happens with everything. I used to get scolded when I would say something like conversate. When I was younger, the word was converse. We're conversing with you. Over the course of my lifetime, the word conversate is now a word. It's just the way things happen. If enough people start doing something, society adapts to it. So it took almost 100 years, but film criticism is now different. It's split. If you want the artistic merits of film and visual storytelling and the like, you might look to a traditionally trained film critic. But as far as I plan on seeing a movie this weekend, what will I enjoy? Your favorite movie reviewer is on YouTube, and there's plenty of them. And again, the parasocial relationships allow you to sync your film ideas and likes to a particular YouTube film reviewer. So if anything, there's plenty of taste. Again, I haven't watched anybody's videos on the subject start to finish. I was laughing at my good friend's clickbait title. Is movie criticism dying? No, it's different. It's a bit more saturated now. Movie reviewers are all over the place. But I guess if your favorite movie reviewer is Chris Stuckman, perhaps the glue is coming undone. But I don't think so. I think in due time, if he's going to continue reviewing movies. I would be surprised if he just keeps saying positive things about movies. And if he does, Hollywood better throw money at him, because every time somebody accuses somebody of being a shill, this plays right into that. For better or worse, it's not a great look optically that a film reviewer or a critic, quote unquote, is not doing negative reviews. I'm sorry. Hollywood isn't full of good movies. I mean, even independent cinema, they still throw out some stinkers. To throw them a bone at this point is a little unfair. There's a change developing in the film landscape, and to say that I'm not going to do any negative reviews is a little tone deaf. I've said it dozens of times. My opinion's my opinion. I'm right and wrong at the same time. You're right and wrong at the same time. You know what you like. I don't know what you like. I can tell you what I like, but it doesn't mean that 100% of the time people are going to agree with you. It's to think that you can avoid that is a little silly. Thank you to my patrons and channel members. I celebrate film just as much as the next guy, but doesn't mean that I feel like if something isn't good, that it shouldn't be discussed. That's silly talk. I've been Charles. You haven't.